Good evening. Welcome to the Power of Now. I'm Coach Mitchell, your certified life coach.
And I'm Coach Darren, integrative coach.
Listen, thank you for joining us tonight as we talk about, as we beg the question, how well do you know yourself? And we want you to engage with us tonight because I'm going to lay this question out. Know thyself. How well do you know yourself? And we want you to walk with us on this journey as we talk about self awareness, knowing and understanding your values and your principles and how they all play a part in really knowing who you are and how you show up.
You earlier, or say, a few months ago, we had a session where the topic was, "Who am I?" Where we get asked the question, again, what are your values? What are your vision? And this is kind of a continuation of that, meaning, how well do you know yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Do you check in with yourself regularly? You know, uh, do you checking yourself to find out, do you still value the same things that you did a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago? There's a saying that says, if you're the same person at 40 as you were at 20, you've wasted 20 years of your life. The same person at 60 as you were at 40, the same thing. People like to say, I'm that same person, I haven't changed. Maybe the core of you, really hasn't changed. But if
Mm-hmm.
you say you haven't changed over the course of your life, then you're not growing, and you probably have not learned anything from the challenges. Because I'm assuming as we go through life, we're going to have challenges. And if you've been lucky enough, blessed enough that those challenges haven't reshaped your outlook on life, then hey, great for you. But most folks, if you're out here pushing for something greater, if you're moving outside of your comfort zone, you're gonna you're gonna confront something that's going to reshape you. So hopefully, we're asking the question. First of all, yeah, how do you make the time to get to know you?
Exactly. And that's all a part of personal growth, development, and even making wiser, smarter, thoughtful choices in life.
Yeah, it's part of self-discovery, and you know, quite often we don't, I'm say, people don't take time for that self-discovery. They're
Mhm.
going through life. They're going after often the things that they want, uh, things that they believe, as we were talking earlier, Coach Mitchell, things that
Mhm.
they believe will make them happy.
Right, right.
Uh, you ask somebody, what do you want? Well, I want happiness. I want peace of mind.
Hmm.
But what does that mean to you?
Right.
Uh, and are you really working for that, or are you
Hmm.
just assuming it's going to magically happen?
Right. This manifestation, although we can manifest a lot of things, if we're not really working on achieving those things that we say we are really wanting, then it's not going to happen, right? So you said a key phrase there, the part of self discovery.
Mhm.
Well, how do we go about discovering who we really are fundamentally? Because we've been shaped by so many different external components,
Mhm.
our environment, our careers, our families, that it's really difficult to tap into that space of meditating or getting into that frame of mind to really taking that introspective look
Mhm.
as to who we really are. And, we live life and we've lost the core of who we are.
Or and being able to define it, even finding ourselves. Because here's something that we probably don't give a lot of thought of, yet it takes up a good portion of our life. We create an identity for the outside world, you know, uh, who we think we're supposed to be, or who we think other people think we're supposed to be.
Hmm.
We kind of keep, uh, pushing the things that we want further down inside. We keep suppressing it, I'd probably say.
Mhm.
And like I said, I think because we don't check in enough, we don't make time. That quiet time, it's constantly one thing to the next. And you know what, folks out there, you know, you may know if you're on that stereotypical corporate ladder, what they call AKA hamster wheel. Oh, yeah, you find yourself you're striving to get to the next level. You know what? We
Mhm.
strive for the accumulation of stuff. Mhm.
And sometimes that doesn't happen, and we think it's us.
Yes.
But again, that is other people defining who we are.
Mhm. It's only us when it comes to the fact that we're spending time going after things that we probably don't even want anymore, you know. And then we're wondering, as we've seen it many times before, people who acquire things and they're still not happy.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we speak in generalizations. Well, I want to be happy. I want to, well, how do you want to spend your life? I want to, help others. How do you want to help others? Well, I don't know because
Mhm.
you haven't taken time to get to know yourself.
Right.
Mhm.
And coach, I think oftentimes people don't know where to start in that regard. And I think that it's for some people it's taboo, but I think taking like personality tests,
Mhm.
using some of those tools to help identify really what your core thoughts are and how you perceive things can help you put it into perspective. Because if you take tests like the personality test, like Myers Briggs, I guarantee you one of the 4 or 5 of those personalities or attributes that come out of that test is going to resonate with you. Like, oh, and then you dig a little bit deeper. Well, this is why I respond and react the way I do based on the initial assessment. Let me dig a little bit deeper. And as you dig a little bit deeper, you find out that maybe you're bringing some things up that you suppressed and you had to operate, like you said, in that bipolar personality where you show up where you shouldn't, but you do. You
Mhm.
show up one way at work and another way in your personal life. And it's a conflict
Mhm.
with who you really are fundamentally. So I think that is, one way to help you understand not only your personality, but to get you on that road to self discovery.
Yes. And like I said, it begins by, sitting still or spending time with yourself. There are folks who, for some reason, whatever reason, they don't want to spend time alone,
Mhm.
but you have to on this one because you have to get rid of the distractions. And we sometimes rely on distractions as a coping mechanism. Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
you know,
certainly.
and that coping mechanism tends to parlay or roll over into other habits to keep us away from getting to know us,
Mhm.
almost to the point where you become afraid of yourself. So we know that. I mean, there's a bunch of tools that, as you alluded to, Coach Mitchell, that you could find. Some of the things you can find on the internet. There's books
Mhm.
that you could buy, even if you don't want to pay, money for the expensive test. Uh, and let's think about actually, how many of you have taken that test for as part of your job, and then once you took the test, you didn't think anything about it. Like that test wasn't for me. That was for my employer. But guess what? It could have been for you as well.
Exactly,
Mm.
which I think is, sometimes is very irresponsible of employees who dismiss any type of training or access to tools that they would not ordinarily be accessible to them when they take advantage of the company's spent dollars, because that's exactly what happens.
Mhm.
The company is in taking an opportunity to invest in the employee and then to have those training classes and courses dismissed, I think is a bit irresponsible.
Oh, absolutely. Mhm.
And we should take the opportunity to take advantage of those because, again, they really do benefit us
Mhm.
personally in our personal growth
Mhm.
and development. I mean, over the span of my career, even in roles that classes and courses were not a part of the core function or even on the peripheral, I had the opportunity to work for individuals who believed enough in me to invest in the things that I aspired to do as far as developing and growing in my career, and was able to take advantage of a lot of the benefits of training and going to classes that ordinarily you would not have access to. So I think it's incumbent upon us, if those tools become available, that we take advantage of it and not just go to class, but
Mhm. Mhm.
bring it back and incorporate it.
You know, I want to, for a brief moment, speak from the opposite side. Being a corporate trainer, and one of my pet peeves was to be called to do a training for a company and to hear em- employees moan
Hmm.
about having to take this training. Um, Again, you ask yourself why. I mean, I remember going years back, having two gentlemen sitting in the back of the class, act as if they were in high school. So there's a point where you haven't evolved.
Hmm.
I get it when, years ago you looked at education as something you had to do. But again, if you're evolving, you should have a new mindset, you should have a paradigm shift. Where at this point, if you're still in the workforce and if you're older, your growth and personal development should be just primary.
Yeah,
Now it's
absolutely.
there with your health and wellness. It should be at the top of your list.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think with each personality test or any tool that I've utilized um, to really help me develop the passion that's within me,
Mhm.
has really helped me to understand my personality type, why I interact with people the way that I do, and why I enjoy being creative and making meaningful connections
Mhm.
along the way.
Now, so we want to just throw some questions out to you to and for you to possibly answer at some point in time. And we have a lot of them, so we won't go through them all tonight. But just some things to get you to think about you. In his class, ha- have you ever been asked? And I'm pretty sure, if you've gone on any interviews, you've been asked certain questions where tell me about yourself. You know, Tell me about your strengths or weaknesses. And these are general questions that we tend to equate to our job or employment but it's something that we should think about on a regular basis. Yeah, what are your strengths? What
Mhm.
do people admire about you? Or what do you believe people admire about you? What do you think people don't like about you? Now, that's probably a hard one to admit. you know, Yeah, we know things like, oh, what's your favorite color? Most people probably have that one, sealed in their mind. But, some of the other questions might ask yourself at this point in your life, what do you value?
Mhm.
How do you see at this point in your life going forward, spending the rest of your life? Now, and depending on how old you are, like I say, you're either in one, two categories. You're still in the morning part of your life, or you're in the afternoon approaching evening part of your life, and your values should be different.
Sunrise, sunset.
Yes, your values should be different. uh, give you a classic example, which I may have mentioned in one of the other sessions, is yeah, when you're younger, you're you're on the go. What drives you is accomplishments.
Mhm.
And this is where we sometimes make our mistake because we get lost in that space. But when you get older, you should have made the shift into what is meaningful to you.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
if you're still in that rat race, like I said, all you gotta do is look around. You will know that people become self-destructive when they feel or think they don't have anything meaningful in their life. Mm.
Exactly. And I think one of the worst things we can do as individuals is to allow ourselves to be defined by our career
Absolutely.
and take on the identity of an organization and lose ourselves.
Hmm.
There has to be a fusion, I believe, that we show up as our true, authentic selves, not go along with the status quo. Because once you assimilate to the status quo, I think that's where you start to lose sight of who you are
Hmm.
and allowing others to, again, define who you are. And I believe, what you just said, as far as understanding what your value system is, will help shape your decisions around whether or not you are complacent in a
Hmm.
place or creative in a place and developing yourself as well as those around you.
Hmm.
Because a lot of times, you know, being in corporate America, being in organizations, I think that we get so far off of what the real objective is. And it's moving a company forward. And moving a company forward doesn't just mean how much revenue are we bringing into the organization, but how much are we bleeding out of the organization by oppressing people's creativity, by not empowering our people, and by all of the isms that exist under that corporate structure. And then we sometimes bring that out and you see it play out in our personal lives too.
Hmm.
Because again, we've allowed ourselves to be redefined by someone else's definition of who they think we should be.
And here's something because you'll hear that quite often that we have to become someone else different in certain settings. So I would challenge people, to think about what is it about yourself that you feel you need to change in different settings. If you are true about who you are, if you're being authentic about who you are, why do you feel you need to change?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't you show up? Now, if there are things about you that you can't show up in certain ways, then maybe those are things you need to change.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but people love to say, how authentic I am. And I go down different pathways with that. Like one thing when I cross over into health and wellness and they say, well, you are what you eat. Well, you eat a lot of processed food. That's fake food. So if you are, what you eat, that means you're a fake person, you know? So you ask yourself, if you got to keep reshaping
Mm-hmm.
who you are for different settings, then maybe you're in the wrong setting, which again, you're not being true to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you need time to reevaluate and ask yourself, at what point did I sell myself out for some other reason? And I get it. You know what? Uh, did some research, years ago on the length of time, or basically how many people were working in the profession that they went to college for. And I cannot remember the numbers off the top of my head, but it was unbelievable that they did studies like a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and how most people don't end up working in the profession that they went to college for. Now, why is that? Because we know we come out of college, you try, but then you end up, I just want to get a job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you get that job, and then it was, and this also applies to folks who drop out of school saying, I need to take a break and never go back. It's kind of for some reason, you start making money, and if the money's good, you're hooked,
Mhm.
and you basically let go.
Right. You're chasing false, a false sense of happiness
Yes.
because
Mhm.
it's ever fleeting, right? It's ever fleeting. And hi, Terrell, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining us. Please, by all means, if you have any comments or questions, jump right in. We really love to have your feedback and your input. This is bi-directional. This is bi-directional. Yeah, so Coach, I think also um, what you said is key to digest. No pun
Mhm.
intended. That what we're taking in as you say processed foods, and we say we are what we eat. Then are we who we are as we do? So today I'm corporate. I'm on your side. I'm your team leader. I'm on your side. Tomorrow you made a mistake and I'm not.
Mhm.
You know, do you consistently show up inconsistent?
Mm. That's probably one consistency I think with a lot of people. Uh,
I know
I
that sounded ambiguous and convoluted,
yeah.
but really that's how we operate.
Mhm. Uh, and part of, like I said, this journey is of self-discovery and constantly checking in with yourself and observing yourself and observing your emotions, your views. You know, and I just kind of believe you want to be aware of what your principles are,
Hmm.
and are you consistent, as you were just talking about, Coach Mitchell? Are you consistent even to your own principles? Case in point, you know what? Would you justify the behavior of someone that was related to you that you denounce in other folks? Do you justify the behavior in yourself that you denounce in other folks? See, a person who lives by principles, they're pretty steady. Even if you don't agree with them, you
Hmm.
pretty much know where they're going to stand,
Hmm.
no matter who you are. So, you know what? Yeah. What is your belief system? And is your belief system today the same it was 20 years ago? And if so, why?
Hmm.
Uh, and not saying that it shouldn't be, but you ask yourself, why? I'm just thinking, what? As we grow in different areas, it should open up our view of the world, what, of other folks.
Hmm.
It should widen our
Perspective.
perspective.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, are you checking in with yourself? If someone were to ask you, you know, what are your hobbies? Would you know? Could you
Hmm.
answer? You know, uh, if someone were to ask you, yeah, why don't you, or why do you have certain habits? Here's a good one, Coach Mitchell. That's a What are your habits that you define as being not suited for your well-being?
Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Could you answer those? And then the follow-up question is, if you know it's not, why are you doing it? Uh, and to be honest, because this is not about judgment,
Right.
it's about self-discovery. So
Correct.
uh, again, for me, I can respect someone who says, yeah, I know it, I know I do it, and I'm okay with doing it at this point.
Hmm.
Yeah, I I saw a post the other day where someone posted and I think I mentioned it to you. I may have even shared it with you. Uh, where someone shared all the ingredients in a fast food sandwich,
Hmm.
and it was unbelievable how people deflected and rationalized and justify eating this sandwich. Some people just totally discarded the fact that somebody was pointing out this is what's in the food. You know, people attacked the messenger. They just twisted it. And very few people focused on, oh, this is an eye opener. You know?
Versus, well, I would say that leads us to emotional intelligence,
Mhm.
which we talked about in the past as well. Because once you become aware of why you react impulsively, because those were impulsive responses,
Mhm.
they did not, most of them did not have an iota of reflection to them. So they were very impulsive,
Mhm.
well, ask yourself, why do I feel like I have to defend a position when it really, or why am I even taking it as a personal attack,
Exactly. Mhm.
right? Or someone personally criticizing me versus taking a step back and going to one, research for yourself, whatever the issue, topic, recipe may
Mm.
be, and not taking a defensive stand, but rather taking a posture of reflection. Let me go and research this. Let me see. Let me check out some of these ingredients and the impact it may have on me personally. And then learning from that
Mhm.
and learning how to respond or react to a statement that may or may not be factual, may apply to you, may not
Mhm.
apply
Mhm.
to you,
Mhm.
versus that knee jerk impulsive
Impulsive.
response.
Yes. So there is a good point that you just raised where the self discovery comes into play. Someone made a post. They didn't call anybody out. They didn't call anybody names. If you chose to eat this particular food from this very well known, you know, fast food chain, they didn't. They just posted it.
Right.
And yet people responded as if they were being attacked. They would respond as if the person was attacking the entity, which the
Mhm.
person wasn't. You know, they were just sharing information. So ask yourself, do you get defensive when you learn something new that challenges a behavior or a belief that you've had, as opposed to saying, whoa, I've learned something new.
Mhm.
Let me research it. I can still decide not to change,
Right.
which again would be another conversation as to why not, but
Hmm.
as opposed to immediately attacking the messenger or the message,
Hmm.
as opposed to taking time to learn about you.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's again part of the emotional intelligence. One of the key attributes that come out of that is listening
Mhm.
and being empathetic with others or
Mhm.
to others. So I think that
Mhm.
once we get to that point, or we can really start to have healthier relationships and interactions, not just in our, in our personal lives, but even in our careers.
Yes. And a healthier relationships begins with a healthier relationship with yourself.
Hmm.
You know, I today sent just a thank you email to a nurse who was part of the organ transplant
Hmm.
that I had. She was kind of walking me through the stages.
Hmm.
Again, I was preparing to be a donor. Uh, just clarification. So I was just after this is all was all said and done, I just sent her a note, thank you note.
Hmm.
And at the end I said, most importantly, make your health and wellness a priority, you know, because you want to make sure that you're okay so that you can do what you have, you know, desired to do, which is be a nurse. you know. So with that, like I said, is how often are you really focusing on you, mhm, to make sure that you are showing up completely, authentically with others?
Hmm.
mhm. Are we hiding a part of ourselves, or are we afraid for the part of ourselves to show up, which then causes disconnect within us?
Mhm.
Because we pretty much know how that feels in any relationship where you don't feel like you can be heard, you are appreciated. You know, like I said, you're not living your life
Mhm.
completely and fully. No. Um,
I think that if we kick that back over to corporate, to
mm,
our careers, you've seen a lot of people quote and post, people don't quit their jobs, they
mhm,
quit bad bosses,
mhm,
right? And I think that quote unquote bad boss is that one person or type that has not really taken an introspective look at one, who they are, two, how they actually affect others around them in a negative way
mhm,
and have that negative impact. And I think part of the challenge is when we see a lot of people leaving out of our space and not wanting to interact with us, that should give us a cause to pause, to take that introspective look. Wait, is it something about me? What am I doing? Is it something that I need to develop, a strength, a weakness that I need to strengthen? What is it that I can do to grow in this particular area?
mhm. And again, I want to add to that, coming from another side,
Hmm.
are you willing? And this is often happens in our personal relationships, even if our personal relationships are in a professional setting. Are you afraid to grow because you feel it's going to separate you from a certain person or group of
Hmm.
people? You
Hmm.
know, uh, have you held yourself back? You know, are you paid attention to the behavior that you may exhibit? In these kind of settings, and sometimes we don't want to give it our full acknowledgement, but we feel it. We know it that yeah, I'm holding back.
Hmm.
You know, uh, you know, if I take this new role, people are gonna look at me differently. You know, I can't hang out, or as I say, I can't go to lunch with certain people. I can't do certain things because I may now be their boss or their manager.
Hmm.
And I don't want that. Like, it sounds kind of like ridiculous questions, but whether it's that question or not, the principle is, or is there something that may be going on with you that is holding you back? Uh, and why do you feel a need to appease, you know, a certain group of people or
Hmm.
person?
Hmm.
You know, um, there's the old saying which I've shared before is elevation brings about separation. It is a natural process. Now, when the seeds when the seed bursts loose and the begin to sprout and come above ground, it's above ground. It leaves everything you know below ground. Doesn't separate from its roots, but it sees things from a different perspective. You know? It's a natural process.
Hi, Stacy. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us. And again, please, if you're watching, let us know what you're thinking. Let us know how you're feeling about the topic tonight, because we really do want you to get something out of this because we feel that it's important that we start to have those self-awareness checks to make
Hmm.
sure that we are growing in all areas of our lives. And we are here to help you do that. Let's just make that clear. We are here to help you do that. But Coach, I think, an example that comes to top of mind for me, um, and a lot of times it is with either my career or my family. That's where my levels of awareness come, and my reflective time for introspection occurs. But I think in one example in my career, I had a setback. And in recognizing that it was something that I needed to work on, it gave me the opportunity to develop a new skill. And it gave me an opportunity to develop a level of emotional intelligence that I did not have before that setback. So instead of blaming and pointing the finger, I took it as an opportunity to learn and to grow. And it was one of the best things that happened in my career because it allowed me to pivot and ultimately find a more fulfilling role and path within the same industry, but a different path. So I think, if we take the time to really think about what we've heard or what has occurred or happened to us, and I won't say always internalize it and own it because sometimes it's not for us to own. It's for us to move on, right? But if it's something that really resonated, we should take that opportunity to learn from it.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the one thing that should be consistent is when things come into your life, to always ask yourself, is this an opportunity to learn something? Whether it is something that you may have caused
Mhm.
or something that just
Causal effect.
right. Now, there is a belief, all right, that anything that happens to you, you took part in. All right. Now the question is whether it was an active part or a
Mm,
passive part.
mm,
You know, because if you decide to show up in a certain place, you made a decision to show up and something bad happened, it's not your fault that the bad happened, but you chose
to go
to,
to work that day.
yeah, and I know it sounds crazy, but that's one way of looking at it because that's a starting point when when you begin to realize that everything that happens to me, I took a part in. So it helps you to say, yeah, when you begin to take control and own that you took part in it on some levels, I think it moves you out of victim mode, and it helps you to begin moving forward. It doesn't mean that, oh, it's your fault because that fault, that even that language,
It's victimless.
yeah,
That's the victimization.
yes, but just saying, yeah, I decided to go that way and this happened. Okay, now what do I do?
Mhm.
As opposed to going right into victim mode and then wonder, why did this happen? Why did this happen? I know we all have those questions, trust me, you know what? But you don't want to get caught there. So as you begin to grow, you begin to ask the more mature, introspective, and powerful
Mhm, mhm.
questions.
Exactly, because I think most importantly, to your point, is when you become self-aware, those things that experiences that you may have that are negative, you're able to overcome them a lot easier because you find a way to navigate.
Mhm.
You find a way to navigate and not dismiss it or bury it because it becomes trauma. You don't want trauma. You know how to advocate for yourself.
Yes.
I think that's the word I'm looking
Mhm.
for, not navigate, but advocate for
Mhm.
yourself. And you understand that, again, other people's definition of who you are doesn't matter when you know who you are,
Right. Mhm.
when you know yourself.
Yeah. So let me give you another example because part of this journey of self-discovery uh, doesn't mean that you're always going to be courageous
Mhm.
in your decisions. You're always going to just follow through. But part of self-discovery is recognizing that you may be afraid and asking yourself why. And you begin to dig it a little deeper
Mhm.
because you may find out that your reasons for fear are really unfounded, as they often are. But at least if you know why you're afraid, you know what you need to do to, move beyond it.
Mhm.
What we tend to do is we try to act like we're not afraid, and we end up not really dealing with the cause,
Yeah.
the root cause.
Mhm.
So, you know, don't. I hope folks, you don't take what we're saying that self-discovery and with these questions I need to have an answer that's positive and powerful. No,
Oh,
it's just being able to ask the question and answer it
right.
truthfully.
Right.
Mhm.
And even if you are afraid, move in that fear. Just don't allow fear to paralyze you.
Yes. Mhm.
Just keep moving, asking those questions. Taking a real didactic look at yourself and move on, but be compassionate and gracious with yourself.
Because
Okay.
here's a
So,
classic example. I'm
mhm,
sorry for cutting you off. Is
mhm,
just asking yourself, you're sitting watching a movie and you are, what, scared, you're tense, you're stressed. Why? Now there's a definition for it, there's a term for it, but you ever ask yourself, or you ever watch something, a series, and the star of the series is in trouble, and you're wondering, are they going to live? Are they going to survive? Why do you allow that to happen? You know they're going to survive.
the ending has already been written.
Yeah, because they got to come back in the next week. you know, but you get worked up. So it's that's why I said, when you begin to look at things and ask yourself, why do I feel the way that I do?
Mhm.
Asking yourself the question, giving a truthful answer without judgment is a place where you start to uncover what's really going on
Mhm.
inside of you.
Right. And hi, Sanjay. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. Yeah, and Coach, I think that it's incumbent upon us to really begin to be honest with ourselves
Mhm.
about one, how we're feeling, two, when we're feeling it. But again, as you said earlier, to move beyond the fear,
Mhm.
operate and feel it because it's there,
Yes.
but move beyond it. And again, do not take, I can't say it enough,
Mhm.
other people's opinions of you and allow it to paralyze you from
Mhm.
moving forward.
Right. Mhm.
Because as you know, the more you live life, the more you interact with people, you're going to be, you're going to encounter instances, situations, and circumstances that will knock you off your feet, but you gotta get back up. You
Mhm.
have to have the courage to stand up and fight for what you believe in. But you can't fight for what you believe in if you don't know
What you believe
what you believe in.
in. Mhm.
And I know that sounds convoluted, but it's the truth. It's the basic, simple truth of the matter.
Mhm.
And, I could go on with some stories about some experiences that I've had just from my profession and just
Mhm.
for being, you know, a single, one of the single sole African Americans at the table or females at the table, whatever it is, racism, sexism. I can name a number of isms that could have and should have stopped me from wanting to move up in my career, but I didn't allow other people's comments or their stereotypes to define how I navigated in the workplace and or
Mhm.
advocated for myself and others. So I think that's important.
It's absolutely important. I think it was Dr. King who had the quote that says, man, yeah, the man who doesn't stand for anything will fall for everything, or
Hmm.
something to that,
Hmm.
um, which is true. Yeah, what are your value systems? What are the things that you will hold steadfast for? Um, you know, I would often hear, you know, say parents and specifically women who would say, what I would do for my child,
Mhm.
you know, and does that level of that passion when you're steadfast, does that carry over into other areas of your life that matter to you?
Mhm.
You know, would you risk your career for something that was against your principles? And if you did not risk your career, would you be honest about the reasons that you did not protect or stand true
Mhm.
to what you believed in?
Mhm.
And again, this is without judgment. That's why you don't want to get in a conversation with other people because they're going to bring their biases and judgment to you.
Right.
This is a conversation you want to have with yourself to really find out who you are.
Mhm.
Why didn't you speak up?
Right.
Mm.
And I think I'm gonna speak from um, the perspective of a female, especially an African American female in the workplace, being the only person of color in the room and the only female in the room. I think gender bias is, again, it's dominant in the higher you escalate or elevate in an
Mhm.
organization, right? And I think recognizing that impact and understanding that the dynamics of the individuals that you're working with, that's their norm.
Mhm.
It motivated me to join groups within the organization to help other women within the organization navigate those circles because I could bring a level of expertise and knowledge just by being at the table and
Mhm.
having those experiences to help them navigate through what they needed to navigate through so that they could get that, get their foot in the door, if you would. So I think it's important to join initiatives and other like minded people that can help you move or get promoted into a different circle,
Mhm.
if that's what your desire is. But I think aligning with initiatives that resonate with your belief system can help you navigate when, or help others navigate that are facing similar challenges.
And taking that again, it comes back to knowing, in this case, what your belief systems are.
Mhm.
Knowing why you do the things you do, because you could again be the same person, and
Mhm.
choose not to do that.
Mhm.
You know what? Why would you not do that? And again, no judgment. That's not a judgmental or
Right.
confrontational question.
Mhm.
Whether you did or you did not, you know what? You know, make a certain decision. Do you know why? Especially when it's an important decision,
Mhm.
or do you just let it go by, not understanding why you made the decision?
Mhm. I can tell you, and again, just based on my career, the
Mhm.
experiences throughout my career, where I did face a career setback was because um, I am always advocating for the underdog, if you
Mhm.
will. And as a leader, I never allow someone else's feedback to persuade my judgment one way or the other. Now, I may listen to the feedback, but I will always have a conversation one on one with a potential employee or an employee, right? Or a staff member or a
Mhm.
team member. And in speaking up for individuals who are not in the room, that has gotten me sometimes in positions where I find myself defending not just my decisions, but those that do not have a voice.
Mhm.
And I try to always stand for what is right. I don't try, I always stand for what is right as far as policy, procedure, and protocol, right? And my belief system will not allow me to make and pass judgment on people unfounded. Whereas you come up against a lot of that when you are in positions of leadership and you're assuming new teams and you're getting feedback. But I have found that when you have those candid conversations with people and you really begin to understand where they're coming from, what they may be going through, how they perceive things, it gives you a level of empathy that you can work with,
Mhm.
And I have had teams that were underperforming be the top performers because of that approach.
Mhm. Well, you know what? You know what? I push now, and you've heard me say this, uh, that it is time that we begin connecting with folks on a human level.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in order to get past or get through all the chaos we've been experiencing, for those in organizations, I you've heard me kind of bite at people is more or less don't give me the corporate bullshit. I'm straight up. No, we don't. That's not this conversation. Not
Mm-hmm.
about the corporate speak.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to hear it. I've heard it for 40 years. I used to write it. I believed it. Yeah, and this goes the difference between knowing what was important to you when you're younger versus now. Talk to your people as they're humans. Connect to them.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're going right across the surface. Do you think these people haven't heard this before? And I read it, especially like I said, on some of the professional sites, people are still reciting it. And maybe there are people in noon again. Yo, straight up, stop it. If you want to make a difference, speak to people as they're humans. Start following through with that. The the typical canned organizational speech is played. It's over. It's done. Mhm. Uh, Trust me, you don't have to listen to me. If you do some research, you will find that there is a shift occurring. So you take that along with what we're talking about tonight, getting to know yourself, because as you get to know yourself, it then, it will elevate or expand your emotional intelligence to get to know other people. And where are you
Mm-hmm.
getting to know them? On a human
Human
level.
level.
Mhm. You heard me, we've had this conversation before, is, for instance, people put, and this also goes back to knowing yourself, so you'll be able to connect the dots. We want to always put on our best, you know, uh, the our best version of ourselves, say, in interacting with others, in our relationships, and we definitely do it when we're going after a new job. We want the resume to make us look like we sparkle. And then when you flip it and you ask a person, what was your greatest failure? If they hesitate for a moment, they're about to bullshit you. All right. Because if they knew themselves and they actually pushed themselves, they would know where they had their setbacks and they would be okay sharing it.
And let's flip the coin. If you're asking that question, then you cannot judge
Absolutely.
the person for giving you the honest answer.
Mhm.
You should be able to receive it as the honest answer that you're looking for and check off the integrity box.
Yes.
Check off the
Mhm.
honesty box. Check off the box that I can trust this person to do what I need them to do. And if they, quote unquote, fail at that particular task or at that initiative or at that project level or at the strategy level, organizational level, then guess what? I know they're going to be accountable and they're going to do what they can do to course correct.
Yes.
And that's right, Sanjay. You hold the space for their growth. Absolutely.
Yes. Yep. And that's it's so true. And guess what? If you cannot accept someone telling you that they failed, then that's where a point where you need some work.
That's right.
Mhm.
You
Because
need Coach Darren and Coach Mitch.
yes, because you know what you're saying. If you're passing judgment, is then that means that's it. You haven't failed.
That's right. Your expectation is unrealistic.
So when you give the corporate speak about, you know what, we're going to go forth and you know what, we are promoting that we want to try our best and we want innovation and we want to do all these things, but then you judge someone who said that they failed, then you need to check yourself.
Right, because you fail to uphold your end of the bargain.
Yes. So when you have the opportunity to speak to people, and I've done, I would ask people, I don't care how old you are, I want you to go to a point where, like I said, something really happened to you.
Mhm.
And it's different for different people
Mhm.
that really made you think that your world was coming to an end. No?
Mhm.
And the bigger question is, how did you recover?
Yeah.
Because I say, you want people, and again, this goes back to connecting with people on a human level because we all, like I said, uh, connect with people on a human level and being authentic.
Mhm.
Because we all had, or should have had, if we pushed ourselves in that area, should have had some failures and some setbacks.
Mhm.
Uh, and as we've said before, those failures and setbacks don't necessarily have to be we failed within an organization.
Right.
Those setbacks could have been things that happened in our personal life
Mhm.
that upended it,
Right.
totally unexpected. You know, like I said, divorce. Loss of a family member, illness, and those things that just, that weren't on your agenda
Right.
or on your calendar. Mhm. Wasn't one of your goals,
Wasn't a goal.
but it happened. And now you had to rethink.
Mhm.
And which brings it back into our conversation. When you recovered, did you have a new paradigm? Did you have a new perspective about, say, life?
Mhm.
That's where your growth comes in.
And you would think that with all that happened with the pandemic,
Mhm,
that not just individually, but the world collectively should be in a better place
mhm,
because the world should have known or should have grown through that sit down, be still, quiet period.
mhm,
Be still meaning now that I have the time and the opportunity, I should be working on my growth. I should be working on development. I should be working on me.
mhm.
I should be working on me. And we should have come back bigger, better, stronger,
Absolutely.
bigger, better, stronger. But you see, to me, I feel like we regressed. We regressed. And a lot of people didn't. I mean, Coach, even Sanji's on here. We spent the better part of 2 years learning, developing, growing, and encouraging one another and supporting one another. We didn't stop.
Yep.
We did shared experiences. We did let's talk about it. We did panels. We did
Mhm.
everything. We
Well,
even took courses for certification. Sanji's on here. We did diversity, equity, and inclusion,
Mhm.
leadership training for our certification so that we would have the credentials and the knowledge and the ability to come back to our organizations better and stronger to make people's lives, organizationals, organizations stronger and better by pouring what we learn back into the employees.
You know what? Coach Mitchell, you're absolutely right. We all started, figuring out, okay, what can I do now, being that I can't do what I was normally doing, that I'm more confined. Uh, how can I make use of this time? And yes, we all started taking courses. And, I went from one course to another. I started signing up for everything I could especially as more free things were becoming available for whatever reason, uh, I slid into courses at Stanford University.
Harvard,
Yes. Yep.
Stanford, Yale,
Yep.
they were all offering free courses.
Mhm. And I started laughing because now I'm the guy that is still dancing on the dance floor, even though the music stopped playing. Because I continued. I had developed a routine, a an appetite again for acquiring knowledge that hasn't stopped now the pandemic is over. I now had to figure out how do I integrate it into my schedule, and it requires juggling, but that appetite is still there. So even though the party may be over for some, I continued. So uh, it was worth. That was one of the benefits of the pandemic.
Mhm.
For me was putting me back on track in terms of knowledge acquisition.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
no.
All right, Coach, we have reached or gone over a little bit over the top of the hour. Any last, what your wrap up, your comments could have been the summation, but any additional comments before we
No,
close out for the night?
no, I would challenge people to, make sure you make getting to know you part of your, I won't say your daily life. Find it goes back to finding that quiet time. Uh, you know what? Whether it's part of your prayer time, part of your meditation time, but time just to sit with you
Mhm.
and be honest about what you discover and honest without the judgment.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. So we encourage you to continue to embark upon your own self-discovery and self-awareness journey. And like Coach said, whether it's through prayer, meditation, journaling is always something that we are big proponents and advocates of because we are big journalers ourselves. When you write it out and read it, it reinforces and it gives you more accountability for what happens in your life. So, listen, I'm Coach Mitchell.
and I'm Coach Darren.
Join us tomorrow night at 8 p.m. for our Inside Outside on Wellness Wednesday, where we offer you hopefully enriched content on your journey to health and wellness, both in the kitchen, indoors, and outdoors. So, listen, Coach Darren, certified strategist, certified life coach, certified corporate trainer, Coach Mitchell, certified life coach,
Yeah. Now my mother
decades
just
long in the healthcare industry. We are here for you, and we are so glad that you decided to spend a little bit of time with us tonight. We'll see you next
let me
Tuesday.
just say, hold on. Yep, all those certified. I know my mother used to say when she said someone was certifiable, that wasn't a compliment. So
I didn't say he was certifiable. I said he was certified in.
Okay.
Okay, not certifiable.
Okay.
All right. So let's clear that up. But remember, if you don't start now, there can be no next. Have a great evening.